So would you say then that LNG's season has gone to plan?
Uh, uh, excuse me? Does it look like it's gone to play?
Welcome back to All Chat, the only League of Legends esports podcast made by the fans for the fans, bringing you the latest news and highlights from all four major regions every week. My name is Jack Dawes. I'm joined by Grayson Yada. Let's talk about some League of Legends.
Oh yeah, I was a little out of commission. I was in Cabo for the weekend, as you know, but
I can't believe that you would leave a playoff weekend of LCS to go spend the weekend in Mexico with your friends for their birthday. That's all kinds of messed up.
I know. Shame on me. Shame on me. I missed out on a good weekend of LCS and honestly a ton of really good games elsewhere as well. But luckily we caught up and ready to talk about it.
And that's what this show is for. I can give you some of the rundown. You can give me the rundown of what you did see, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where do you want to get started here?
I feel like we have to talk about the LCS.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to jump right into that?
I'm down. Yeah. So I didn't get to see too much of it, but I know you got the rundown for me here. So
yeah. So big weekend in the LCS. We had the first 4 games of playoffs. Yeah, first 4 games of playoffs. So we started with FlyQuest TL. Had 100 Thieves Cloud9, 100 Thieves versus NRG, and then TL versus Dignitas. So 2 teams are out of playoffs now. We lost both NRG and Dig. That was pretty much expected. I think going into playoffs, everyone was like pretty confident that FlyQuest, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, and Cloud9 were the 4 best teams. So I think anything other than that would have been somewhat of an upset. But really the big news from the weekend was this Cloud9 game, I thought. This Cloud9 series. I have never seen 3 consecutive gold leads that high in a series.
Yeah.
Did you catch it at all?
I did get to catch some of that one. It was like what?
Okay.
A double-digit gold lead in every single game. Every single game was pretty much over by like 20 minutes.
Every single game, I think, or it averaged under 30 minutes for each game. I think the only game that went over was the first game. And the gold leads were like 12,000, 14,000, and 16,000 or something like that.
That's crazy.
Like they were just astronomically high.
Yeah, C9, that was a bit of a show that they put on for everyone here, especially if you're a C9 fan like yourself. You're glad to see Berserker and Fudge back online, right?
Yeah. So this series to me was what we have been waiting for all year with this Cloud9 team. I've seen a lot of like sentiment online recently that like this was the expected outcome, or like people have been talking about how like, oh, 100 Thieves are frauds, C9 is like they're them. But it's so crazy to me that there are people being like, oh yeah, this was expected, because based on how these teams have been playing for the entire season, Cloud9 looked inconsistent at best. They had good moments, but it was a lot of just like, let's hope that JoJo can win the game for us. And 100 Thieves looked really clean, and a lot of their players didn't have any bad games, I thought, for like pretty much all the season. So the fact that some people are coming out and saying, oh, this was expected, I think this was like the first time that we saw the C9 super team pull it together and make it happen.
Yeah, we got to see them at full power finally for like the first time. I guess maybe we kind of saw it for the first weekend of the season, but
the first weekend
disappeared
or so,
for the rest. Yeah. So, I mean, my biggest thing was I was always big on 100 Thieves, right?
Yeah.
They're a really fun team to watch with a young squad. But they got pretty handedly dismantled, in that series.
That was an absolute stomp. It was like they had no chance at any point in any game. After like the first 10 minutes of the first game, they had no chance for like the entire. This was one of those series where it was like, this doesn't feel like one of the teams has any chance to win the series at all. This was like T1 playing Immortals or something. Like there was no, like, it didn't feel fair, this series. And honestly, that it makes it so hard to predict the rest of playoffs, I think, because Cloud9 showed up at such a higher level than we've seen from them, and 100 Thieves underperformed, I thought.
Mhm.
I think most of this can be chalked up to Cloud9 going from being like just kind of inconsistent, back and forth, good weeks, bad weeks, to just like full Exodia God team, like one shot
It's playoff mode.
playoff mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, one, like, what does 100 Thieves even learn from that? It's like, what do you do when you're like used to playing against this super inconsistent team, and then all of a sudden they're just like, all 5 players are prime faker? Like, what do you do about that? So it's like, not even that 100 Thieves really underperformed that hard. It was just that like all of a sudden Cloud9 is actually showing up. So it makes it hard to know, with only one series from Cloud9 so far, how are they going to do against FlyQuest and Team Liquid moving forward, and how good is 100 Thieves actually? And I think we have a little bit of a better idea how good 100 Thieves actually is, because they did play NRG as well, but it makes the rest of the playoffs really interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, how did 100 Thieves look against NRG then?
So okay, here's my thoughts, just kind of on all 4 of these teams right now. Cloud9 has that monster stomp over 100 Thieves, which makes them look really good. 100 Thieves then went on to play a 5-game series against NRG, which, to their credit, looked like it should have been over in 4 games. In the I think it was the 4th game. Oh no, wait, no, the 3rd game. I think it was the 3rd game where they had just a monster throw. They were ahead like the entire game. They had a monster throw. NRG brought it back. So it looked like the series probably should have been over in 4 games. But to go a full 5 games against a team like NRG that was struggling so hard, after going 0-3 to Cloud9, who was also really inconsistent for the split, it's not a great look for 100 Thieves.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading on Twitter, I think River was getting interviewed, and he thinks that the team, they're actually pretty confident in themselves. So that's one bright side, I guess, to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, just their performance. Everyone's saying, "Oh, we're seeing the scrim 100 Thieves now," which
yes, yeah.
I don't know.
I think scrim identities are coming out this playoffs. So 100 Thieves was 2nd place in the regular season, tied with FlyQuest. They looked really good. They get blown out by Cloud9. They have a really close series with NRG. So they went from getting 3-0'd by like one of the top teams to having a really close series with one of the bottom teams from playoffs. On the flip side of that, you have Team Liquid, who throughout the entire split looked really shaky compared to how 100 Thieves looked pretty solid for most of the split. Team Liquid looked like a really middling team. We didn't have a lot to say about them last week. We were saying, what do you say about this team? They exist and they play and they're 4th. But they went from kind of that like middling experience to a really close 5-game series with FlyQuest, and then just 3-0 dumpstering Dignitas. So in my mind, what that's telling me is Team Liquid is here to play with the big boys in Cloud9 and FlyQuest, and 100 Thieves are not quite at the same level. So I think what we're seeing is that really our top 3 is Cloud9, FlyQuest, and Team Liquid, and that 100 Thieves is like a clearer 4th. We'll see what happens. Team Liquid and 100 Thieves play next, which I think is going to be another really close series.
Rivalry match.
It's going to be a banger. But I think if I was betting, I would say Team Liquid take that series.
Okay, wow. And then what are your thoughts on FlyQuest versus C9 then? The upper bracket.
So this is a really hard one, because FlyQuest have been really good the entire split. They beat Team Liquid. It took 5 games, but they beat Team Liquid. It's really going to depend on how Cloud9 shows up. If this new Cloud9 look is the new normal, then I think it actually could be just a Cloud9 3-0 over FlyQuest. Like maybe a 3-1 or something like that. But if they kind of go back to this like
middling,
inconsistent, not confident in how they play, if Fudge and Berserker can't pull it together for another series, then I think FlyQuest take it. So I think at this point, my money is on Cloud9 have it together, and they're actually locked in, just because of how locked in Berserker looked. Like he was back to like maybe not prime Berserker, but he's back to like top 80 carry in the league Berserker, you know? Like the way he played against 100 Thieves, I was like, okay, he's not just there. He's actually putting in the work to win the games for the team. So
yeah,
I think Cloud9 is going to take it, but my guess is it's going to be like a 3-1 probably.
Okay. Yeah. From what I know, C9 right now are like the overwhelming favorites to win that series. So
really?
Yeah.
Have you seen stuff about it?
So like obviously like on betting sites and whatnot, you can kind of see how the public opinion is swaying. And right now FlyQuest is at like plus 210 odds. And C9 is minus three something, which just tells you like there's a little bit of a difference there in what the public's thinking.
That's so
just
interesting.
On the flip side, the 100 Thieves and TL series, both teams are at the same odds. So they're both like minus 115 right now. So it's definitely a difference in public opinion there on who's going to be taking those series.
So that's really interesting to me because I think Cloud9 versus FlyQuest is still pretty uncertain just because I still don't fully trust that Cloud9 is like prime
going to show
team
up the same way that they did. Yeah,
just because they did that in week 1 and they had like exactly what you were saying. They had 3 really good games in a row week 1 and then they fell off. They just had 3 really good games in a row. Are they just going to fall off again against FlyQuest? So I'm guessing that they don't, but I don't know if I would have the odds the same way that the betting sites do, just because like FlyQuest can still win that series, like 100%. FlyQuest can still win that series. But on the other side of it, I think Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves is actually going to be more one-sided, maybe.
More towards the Team Liquids.
I think so.
End, right?
Yeah. So River and Quid are absolute monsters. They're still at like every time I watch Quid play League, he convinces me more that he's just the GOAT. This guy's
he's disgusting, bro.
He's so insane. Even when they lose, he still looks so good. Like in the NRG series, he didn't have a bad game for the entire NRG series. They lost 2 of them. He looked good in both. Like he plays good League every game. It's so insane to watch him. And I think River, he had like 1 or 2 bad games, I think, but he still looks really insane too. I just think that Team Liquid has hit their stride. Yeon looks confident. I think that was a big thing that he was missing for like this whole split was just like a real big lack of confidence. I think it made this Yeon Core JJ bot lane look uninspired just because he wasn't bringing anything to it. He was kind of like just playing ADC as a role player. But now Team Liquid has this identity that they play through bot, they play through Yeon Core JJ. Yeon has his confidence back, and he looks like what everyone has been talking about, like these scrim TL bot lane. I think we saw that in the playoffs the last couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I know Core's gone on the record saying that him and Yeon are the best bot lane in LCS, right? So, and I heard that Yeon's actually shot calling a lot more, which is
interesting,
huge. So, I mean, obviously we don't know all the ins and outs, but you know, that's definitely inspiring, or like good to see out of this TL team, right? And then APA getting under the skin of everyone. I saw all that like drama with the all chat going on, right?
Oh my god, the all chat feature that the LCS added to like the production is one of the best features they've ever added. Just seeing the all chat pop up at the bottom of the screen, so good for content. It was it's so engaging watching that during the stream. Just like watching the pros flame each other in chat for like an entire series. That was so fun.
Good for the scene too. So what are your predictions? But like, I think we have your predictions, right?
Let me be a little clear about what my predictions are. So here's how I think these playoffs are shaping up right now, just overall. It felt like 100 Thieves versus NRG and Team Liquid versus Dignitas were actually really telling matchups because in one thing that I heard Cubby say on Hotline League, I think, was Team Liquid and Dignitas actually have pretty similar styles, and Team Liquid is kind of just a better Dignitas, which I thought was really interesting and pretty accurate when you look at it, because a lot of what Dignitas does is they play through their bot lane. They play through
Tomo and
Isles. Yeah. And they have XU just running bot all the time, playing through them. And then they try and have these solid Rich and Dove solo lanes where it's like they just play to not lose for the most part, and they play to get their bot lane ahead. They pick Smolder a lot for Tomo, that kind of thing. And Team Liquid now has a very similar style where they have Yon and Core JJ have really turned into like the carry lane. They're playing through them. Yon is popping off. He's having insane games. And then Impact and APA are playing to like support them alongside Umpty. So that was really interesting to see. Basically, Team Liquid 3-0, like baby Team Liquid, you know? It's just like
beating up your little brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like same idea, but not as clean as Team Liquid can do it. And then interestingly, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I think 100 Thieves and NRG actually also play really similarly. I think 100 Thieves plays the way that NRG wants to be playing. So the way that NRG played like last year at Worlds, if you think about that, it was a lot of Palafox and Dokla being like top 2 laners, basically. They were both like top 1 or 2 in their roles. And then Contracts, it like opened up the map for Contracts to be able to play through both of those lanes, and they would get really ahead through this like mostly Contracts Palafox, but some of it was Contracts Dokla as well, and they would just play through their whole top side, and then their bot lane with FBI and Ignar was like there to not lose for the most part, kind of weak-sided, support the team. FBI shows up when he needs to, and I think that's kind of how 100 Thieves is playing right now.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, I'm seeing those parallels now.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It's River and Quid are getting these monstrous leads for the team. Sniper is solo killing everyone. He's at, like, during the regular season, I would say he was top 1 or 2 in his role. Quid is absolutely top 1 or 2 in his role. River is absolutely top 1 or 2 in his role. And having these really good individual laners opens up the map for River to be able to go to those lanes and really run the map, kind of how Contracts would. And then their bot lane, Meech and Ayla, plays mostly to not lose and to like weak side themselves. And then Meech shows up in team fights when he needs to, and he has some flashy like Kaisa plays and stuff like that. But they're not playing through their bot lane; they're playing through their solo lanes. So the way that it's shaping up now is that Team Liquid 3-0'd a different version of Team Liquid that's not playing as well, and 100 Thieves 3-2'd NRG, who are playing a similar style that they are. So because they're playing against these other versions of themselves, and because NRG looked so shaky, that's part of the reason that makes me think 100 Thieves is actually not as good as we had them coming into playoffs. So my predictions going on for the rest of playoffs, you know what? I'm just going to give you the full prediction. I'm going to give you games. I'm going to give you score lines. We're just going to run it, and it's going to be really funny to look at this when I'm totally wrong next week. Team Liquid, 100 Thieves. I'm giving 3-2 to Team Liquid. Am I? No, 3-1. 3-1 Team Liquid. Then FlyQuest versus Cloud9. I'm giving 3-1 Cloud9. Then Team Liquid play FlyQuest. I'm going to say, oh man, I'm going to go
a TL win?
I think it is. I think it's a TL win. I think it's 3-2. I think it's another 5-game series. I think it's 3-2 TL over FlyQuest. And I think TL and Cloud9 play in the finals. And Cloud9 3-0.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I'm doing it. I think they're back.
We'll check up on that, in a couple of weeks when LCS Playoffs is over. But you're selling me on that. Honestly, like I think TL definitely has some upset potential, or at least they're like finally starting to come online here.
Yeah.
I would just play devil's advocate and say 100 Thieves is going to make it to the finals, but you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
You know, if I was going to give my predictions, I think C9 for sure beats FlyQuest.
Okay.
And then I think 100 Thieves, I think they might, you know, turn some heads. Who knows? Beat out TL and then beat out FlyQuest too, because why not? And
Let's go.
And then you know what? 100 Thieves also just beats C9 in the finals because also why not?
They just take it.
They just take it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just get better and better each series.
Okay.
And you know, that's how it finishes off. Especially if they're like NRG, you know, they're just gonna you need to underrate them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a 3-1 in the finals against C9, but it's gonna be 100 Thieves instead of NRG.
It's gonna be the 100 Thieves miracle run from the lower bracket.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know, honestly, anything is possible at this point.
Yeah.
I think like the amount of like volatility we've seen in these teams, like it's possible. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen because it absolutely could.
I think it's just that's what's so fun about LCS right now is it does feel like anyone can beat anyone. I feel like FlyQuest is slowly going to start flying under the radar here.
Oh, interesting.
Almost, you know, like obviously they're not favored at all against C9, but
yeah,
they were still a solid team throughout the whole series or throughout the whole split, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to just say that they're going to fall off a cliff and lose back-to-back series, but at the same time, other teams are picking it up pretty good here. So
that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, definitely a fun couple of weeks of league to watch over in the LCS.
Let me run one more thing by you before we finish up on LCS. I think each team kind of has a clear weakness coming into these playoffs, and that's what other teams are going to have to take advantage of to move on in playoffs. For 100 Thieves, I think Meech and Ayla are the weak spot. I think Quid and River are playing still like two of the best players in their roles. I think Sniper is maybe a little like we saw him in the Cloud9 series get behind and then become a non-factor for most of the series. Yeah. So I think that actually is a potential weak spot as well. But I think more than that, the problem is going to be the Meech Ayla bot lane, just because I think Yon and Core JJ are looking really good. I think Berserker and Vulcan are looking like they're back. They're like we know that this bot lane can be the best bot lane in the league if they're on the form that we think that they can be. And then I think FlyQuest bot lane is probably the closest to 100 Thieves with Masu and Busio, but I'd probably give the edge to Masu and Busio. So I think for 100 Thieves, their issue is going to be their bot lane. Then for Team Liquid, I think they're a pretty clear weakness. I love him to death, but I think APA is playing against the 3 undisputed best mid laners in the league right now. That's his tournament. If they're going to make it to finals, if they're going to win playoffs, APA has to be able to stack up against JoJo, Quid, and Jensen, which
tough task.
Is a tall order.
Yeah.
Really tall order. I think Impact has looked really good. I think their bot lane has looked really good. I think Umpty is a really solid jungler as well. Maybe not the same level that we're seeing River on or the same level that we're seeing Inspired on. But I don't know if I would exactly call him a weakness on the team. It's tough when you're up against River and Inspired because they're just at the top level right now. But yeah, I think TL's weakness is in their mid lane. And then FlyQuest, this is an interesting one because I just put a short up today. We're filming on Tuesday. So for those of you who have seen it, I put out a video clipping a segment we talked about last week about how good Bwipo was. And I put Bwipo as my first team All-Pro, and I put up a little segment about how Bwipo is the best top laner in the league. And then I went back and I watched the last week of games, and I've seen what's happened in playoffs. And now I'm not sure. I don't know if Bwipo is like, I don't think he's a liability for sure, but I don't know if he's clear best top laner like I was saying initially. So I don't know if I'd call him a weakness, but with Fudge on form and Impact on form and what we've seen Sniper has been able to do in these top matchups, I think Bwipo might actually have a harder time playing out these series than he did in the regular season.
Okay.
And then the other part is their bot lane. I have no problems with Inspired or Jensen, but I think Masu and Busio have looked really good, but they're also like up against some other really, really strong bot lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Cloud9 who have no weaknesses and are going to win. So
their weakness is showing up as a
their
group.
weakness is themselves. Yeah, their weakness is just, can they get their act together? That's their weakness.
I think those are all pretty good points. I think you can definitely point at least FlyQuest and 100 Thieves, their rookie bot lanes, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to stack up against a lot more established, bot lane duos? And then, I think APA also for Team Liquid is probably their weakest point. But yeah, I'll let you handle all the hot takes in LCS, and I'll just agree with them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll put my neck on the line for this one.
Yeah. Also, I think 100 Thieves, they went 1-1 in series this week.
Yep.
So did T1. T1 went 1-1 in series this week. So hate to break it to you, but maybe 100 Thieves and T1 are closer than we think.
Are we really going to have to do this again? Am I really going to have to just shut my mouth and let you compare 100 Thieves to T1 again?
I'm just trying to find a nice little transition into the LCK here, because Hanwha Life took a series off of T1 that, we thought T1 and Gen G were going to be the untouchable teams in LCK, and Hanwha Life had a really convincing series win over T1. I'm not going to lie.
I heard that they took this series win and that, obviously no one was expecting it, but I didn't actually watch the series. What happened?
So, okay, Zeka looks gross. He looks like, he looks like EDG versus DRX Zeka.
2020 Worlds, 2022 Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole team, obviously you know what you're getting out of Hanwha Life. It's a solid squad.
Yeah.
I think Dorn's been a little bit of a weak factor for them, but he didn't look too bad. He had a couple of Jace games. Zeka looked insane on Talia, though. Like, I don't know. I think something about this team, this might be a team where if they get everything clicking, and I think we saw that for the first time in a while against T1, they're going to be a wrecking ball team.
Can you believe that we thought this team might not make playoffs?
I mean,
I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
I feel like that might have been my fault.
I mean, we were pretty high on DK and KT. I think they looked pretty hot to start the year.
Yeah.
But Hanwha Life has just quietly been one of the most consistent teams in all of LCK.
That's crazy. Maybe it's not crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that crazy when you watch them play. If you have the chance, check out that series for sure, because T1 almost looks like, they look like they're getting gapped everywhere. It wasn't too bad, but it was very convincing. It was convincing that Hanwha Life was the better team in that series, which is, you never expect that out of T1. So.
It's interesting. Oh, wow, that was cool. It's interesting. There we go. There's words. It's interesting to see you talk about Zeka popping off on something that's not Akali or Silas, because for anyone that's been watching Pro for a little while now, back to 2022 Worlds, when he was on this DRX roster that won, it was pretty much him smurfing the entire championship, playing Silas and Akali, and just having like absolute 1v9 performances. And Talia is a completely different champ.
Yeah. He had multiple like 2 or 3 man knockups with Talia's little E. I think it's
WE, whatever it is. Yeah.
One of those two. Yeah. And just like setting up so many things. There's so many fights. But honestly, the whole team looked really good too. Peanut was like constantly going into owner's jungle, stealing camps. Viper. Delight's always engaging. So I don't know. I think this is a team that we got to watch out for. They definitely have some MSI hopes here.
Yeah.
We might, for the first time, see 2 teams that aren't Gen G and T1 in a LCK final.
Really?
Yeah. I think they're that convincing right now.
Wow. So who do you think it's going to be in the finals then? Because I know there's not that many games left. That's still a pretty far way to predict. But based on what we know so far, who would you put in the LCK finals right now?
It's gonna for sure be Gen G versus either T1 or Hanwha Life.
Okay.
I just think it might not be Gen G T1. It might be Gen G Hanwha Life. But it's probably 50-50 for that.
That would be crazy to see this T1 roster that's been together for so long now and just took a world championship. If they didn't make it to at least the finals where they go up against their kryptonite in Gen G, their daddy.
Yeah.
I think that would be a huge upset.
Oh, 100%. But I mean, Hanwha Life just looks insane. I mean, T1 obviously they're not bad. They 2-0 DPlus earlier in the week. I think it all comes down to what teams show up on the day that they play, because LCK is that competitive, right? I mean, KT has the only series win against Gen G, so who knows? There could be other sleepers out there. It really feels like the top 5, anyone can beat anyone except for maybe DPlus. But get into DPlus in a sec here. But yeah, like the playoff picture is more or less finalized here.
Okay.
FearX is honestly probably going to make it over Kwangdong Freaks.
Do we need another? Do we need another hashtag Stop Grayson Takes? I want just a real quick flashback to the very start of this podcast. We come on, bright and smiling faces. KDF is the top 4 team. They're locked in. Kwangdong, they're them. It's honestly, KDF are top 4. They're making playoffs. We don't know who the other 2 are, but KDF, they're making playoffs and they're top 4. Where honestly, are we now, Grayson?
Flashback to even 2 weeks ago, I was like, yeah, FearX, they're not it, bro. They're on like an 8-game losing streak right now, or 8-match losing streak. And now Kwangdong is just in that boat. And they picked the worst time for it.
That we've landed on, right, is that Kwangdong's last 2 opponents are both top 5 teams, I think. And FearX's last 2 games
are literally the bottom 2.
NS and DRX.
Yeah, it's
NS and Bro, right?
Yeah,
NS and Bro.
yeah. So yeah, FearX plays Nongshim and Bro. Kwangdong plays DPlus and KT, which ironically they're 2-0 against.
Okay,
they're 1-0 against each respective team. Yeah, but if we're just going based on momentum and like how the teams are actually playing, FearX should be making playoffs.
Yeah. So for context for everyone else, Kwangdong is currently sitting at 6 wins and 10 losses in 6th, and FearX is 5 wins, 11 losses in 7th. And then the other 3 teams, Nongshim, OK Bro, and DRX. OK Bro. And DRX are all 3 wins, 13 losses. So none of them can make playoffs anymore. It's down to the other 5 teams are locked. So it's down to Kwangdong or FearX making it into playoffs. And Kwangdong's last 2 games are against DPlus and KT, who are in 5th and 4th. And FearX's last 2 games are against NS and OK Bro, who are both tied last.
Yeah.
So
it's not looking too good for Kwangdong, if I'm being honest.
But I would
love to be proven wrong. I would love to see them. Realistically, all they need is a series win against one of those 2 teams, or one of those 2 teams.
Yeah.
Right. Which they've done before, to most people's surprise. But yeah, that would realistically send us to a tiebreaker, I think, because they would both finish. Actually, no, it might end up going to like head-to-head. So. I think.
Do we know what the head-to-head is?
I think they're 1-1 against each other.
Oh man!
So it might actually come down to like some type of deeper tiebreaker that I have no idea what the format is for. But that it's going to be interesting. This is the last weekend or last week of LCK before playoffs, so we'll know by next week which team is in and which team's out.
So come back next week where we get to make fun of Grayson for predicting Kwangdong all year, and we get to see Jack's second favorite LCK team in FearX. I don't know if they're my second favorite. I think KT is my favorite team, and I just like FearX. But we get to see one of Jack's favorite teams make it into playoffs and get to laugh at Grayson for his team not making it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Let's hope that doesn't happen, and I'm just right for once.
Wouldn't it be nice to take a dub?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a minute.
Yeah. How's that betting going for you?
Oh, honestly, it's going okay.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
I hit a nice heater the other day. It was like plus 1,200 on a little 4-team parlay. So
okay,
yeah,
maybe we're okay. Maybe we're not in debt. Maybe we're not losing our entire house to the gods of
Quandong
gambling.
freaks, bro.
Quandong freaks.
But yeah. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on to this Genji DPlus match, because that was actually a banger.
Yeah.
I think DPlus showed that they can play the best, but Genji's just them, which we've been saying all year. I think Genji actually might be the best team in the world. But DK, they put up a fight. They showed that they can be in games with these top teams, and that's really hopeful going into playoffs for them.
Yeah.
Lucid had some sick kicks on Lee Sin. I think he played 3 straight Lee Sin games.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He also had some not so great ones, but the ones that were good were really good. So we'll just ignore the bad ones. Showmaker was actually like the odd poor performer.
Really?
Yeah. He got completely gapped by Chovy. I wouldn't say like all series, but in the decider, Chovy ended up being like 9-2-6 or something on Tristana, and Showmaker was like 1-4 on Annie. So yeah. I think that's just a mid diff,
Yeah.
But King and Lucid and Kellen, the 3 pieces that we were all kind of not too convinced by. Yeah, they looked really good. Kellen had an insane Renata game in game 1. Kingen actually looks really good in game 2 as well on Cassante, but it's interesting because right now the rumor going around is that Tarzan is actually likely to go to DPlus.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Lucid is, maybe he's seeing those rumors and he's like, oh shit, I got to start performing. But like,
I need my spot.
Yeah. I think, they might be going towards like a JDG angle. They have Flandre and Sheer.
Yeah.
And they're giving Sheer some games now. I don't know. Maybe DPlus is trying to go towards that angle where they have like a super vet guy who's like a known performer.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like the one angle that I saw was like everyone was super high on Lucid now. Like Lucid's not the problem, right? But
interesting.
DPlus is a pretty historic franchise now, and so if they don't perform, especially after how they did last year, it's like, well, are they going to keep their Kia sponsorship? The sponsors, it's a big angle as well. Like you need a team that's performing, right?
Yeah.
So having Tarzan immediately slot in, he's probably the best unsigned jungler right now in the entire world.
Oh, he has to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe they're just looking for like a mentor-mentee angle. But otherwise, they're saying he's going to NIP in the LPL. So we'll see if anything plays out with that. But and I don't know like what the rules are. Like, can he just join the team right before playoffs? Like, is that legal? I don't know.
Is that allowed?
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, that Genji DPlus series was also a banger. If you want to see 2 good matches within the LCK, definitely the Hanwha Life T1 and then the Genji DPlus series.
Death, taxes, and Genji DPlus banger.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the only certainties in life.
Oh yeah. Speaking of bangers, how about the LEC? I feel like we've had some pretty sick games over there.
Yeah. Okay.
I know. Didn't Fnatic play G2 and win?
They did. Yeah. They beat them. So we just finished up week 2 of the LEC. G2 and Fnatic are tied first at 5-1. And actually, before we get into all the matches, I want to share a little little presentation with you real quick.
Oh,
Let me
yeah, for sure.
pull that up. I've actually just gone ahead and done a tier list for all the teams at this point in the league, at this point in the competition. Okay, so we're in week 2. We're 6 games in. They've got one more week and then playoffs again, which is
crazy.
LEC schedule is nuts. They're gonna have their second playoffs at the same time as like all these other leagues are having their first playoffs. So crazy. But we're done with week 2, and here are kind of my rankings for the teams at. So obviously we have G2 and Fnatic. I actually have tied S, and S is like these guys are contending for the title. They're super solid. I think that they're going to play internationally. I think they're going to play well. They're looking really good. S tier teams. Okay. And then we have Team Heretics in A. Might be a bit of a surprise to some people, but they have looked really good, subbing out Perks and putting Zwyroo in and then bringing in Trimby. We're going to talk about them, but I have Heretics solo A. And then we have, holy fuck, do not trust these frauds under any circumstances. And that's actually Vitality, BDS, SK, and MDK.
Okay.
These teams are absolute frauds and should not be trusted under any circumstances.
Okay.
And then we have F, which is
everyone else,
which is KC, Rogue, and Giant X, who are all
the
back.
Same like bottom 3.
Yeah. So that's really my tier list. I think that's kind of a fair analysis of where these teams are at right now.
Okay.
You got any questions for me, or does it all kind of make sense?
I'm honestly surprised to see Vitality, BDS, and Mad Lions or MADKOI in the holy fuck, don't trust these frauds under any circumstances. Because I think all 3 of those teams are pretty solid last split. Right.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a new addition to the tier list system that I'm working on. It kind of replaces like B, C, and D, all those like kind of middle of the pack angles, right? It's so basically here's where we're at realistically. G2 are monsters. They're everything that we've set up the whole year pretty much applies. They still look really good. They still are favorites to win the LEC. Fnatic are a newcomer to this S tier. I think before we probably would have had them in A. But they've looked super good. They played against G2. It was a banger series. That's the game of the week from the LEC, in my opinion. I think it was the last game of day 2, I want to say. Banger series. G2 versus Fnatic. Fnatic took it. They looked really good. Humanoid, more like Inhumanoid. That guy plays up to the level of the team that he's playing against always. He does this shit at Worlds all the time. He was playing like an absolute monster. Like for some reason, Fnatic versus G2 is just a humanoid highlight reel. Like Marek Brazda, man, that's all I have to say. This guy's an animal. So G2 and Fnatic, I hope that they end up being our grand finals for this LEC playoffs that's coming up. They look really good.
Okay.
Heretics in A, subbing out Perks, subbing out Kaiser.
Stonks are going up.
It's crazy how much more functional this team looks without Perks. It's like such a sad fall from grace, maybe. I really like Perks. He was on C9 at one point. I was really cool to see. I thought the G2 super team, it wasn't actually a super team, but like that 2019 G2 roster is still like one of my favorite rosters of all time. And Perks was huge on that roster. So I really like him still. But for whatever reason, like Zwyroo came in. At first, he looked like he was there. He was just a player on the team, but he's gotten better and better as the series have gone on. And now he looks like a competent mid laner who's making good things happen in games, and he's just improving. So really cool to see him playing. He's playing up, and then Trimby coming in. This guy is an absolute monster. Like Kaiser had a really good split, but when you can get Trimby, you play Trimby. Yeah, he's insane. And then Jankos is, you can't find a way to limit Jankos. Like he can, even when Heretics was like bottom 3 in the league or whatever last year, he was still, people were like, oh, maybe he's MVP. because he's so good on this team that's doing so badly. And he was like the whole reason they made a playoffs run at all last year, I think.
Wow. Okay.
And he's doing the same thing this year, where Jankos and Trimby like 2v9 or whatever, a couple of the games 2v8, whatever. But Jankos has had some absolutely insane games.
Okay.
So they're not G2 Fnatic level. They've had some throws. They've looked inconsistent at points, but they're really good. They're really good, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
They're sitting at what, 4-2 right now?
They're 4-2.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you'll see the new addition to the list, the holy fuck, do not trust these frauds under any circumstances. And that's the entire middle of the pack, which is Vitality, BDS, SK, and MDK. And I know MDK has the same score line as KC. And I know Vitality has the same score line as Heretics. But these teams are so frustrating to watch. There's no consistency. They'll throw games, then they'll just shut out a game, or they'll just lose. There's MDK. They were in the grand finals of last split. Now they're 2-4. Do not trust any of these teams in any games. Never bet on them. You have no idea how they're going to play. You cannot predict how these teams are going to play. You can't tell me that you can predict how these teams are going to play. You have BDS and MDK, who are both up at the top with G2 at the end of last split. They're 2-4 and 3-3. Then you have SK, who have been inconsistent the entire year so far. You have Vitality, who have been inconsistent the entire year so far. They are just barely beating the F tier teams.
Shit.
I think the bottom 7, maybe the bottom 8, maybe you can put Heretics in there. I think Heretics is a little bit above, but I think the bottom 7 in LEC is just a complete dumpster fire right now.
Gosh.
It is not pretty.
I'm seeing that you have Rogue above Giant X there too.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, those guys are all just
it's the
same. Shit bottom. Okay,
man.
Okay.
I mean, I guess maybe KC is above them. I don't think so though. I think it's just like maybe KC is above them because KC can just beat Rogue and Giant X. I don't know. I think none of I'm uninspired by all three of these teams. I'm just disappointed.
So
it doesn't matter.
Okay, there's guys on every single one of those middle of the pack teams. Like on Vitality, they have Vithio and Karzi, right? Are they just non-factors now? Or are they just also part of the inconsistencies? What about like Adam and Nuke, right?
Yeah, it's not like I don't think it's a player issue. I don't think that you point your finger at Vithio and go, he's playing inconsistent. Maybe he is a little bit, but it's not like primarily like an individual skill thing. I think it's a team thing where it's like sometimes they play really together. Like we see these BDS games where they just I think it was BDS versus Giant X where they just shut out the other team entire. Like it was a super clean series. They just like start to end, like played their game, team fought super well, and just ended the game. And then in other games, it's like, what are we even doing? Every player is at a different part of the map. They're running in like 1v4 with all the like the ego of the best player in the world or something. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like these teams that should be so good because you see them in these wins where they blow out the other team and you're like, okay, they know what they're doing. And then the next game is like a 50-minute banger where both teams should lose. There was like 3 series this weekend where both teams should have lost.
Oh gosh. Okay.
That's how I feel.
I need to check out the LEC this weekend because I need to see what everything's about over there.
Yeah. I have 2 games singled out in specific. Week 2, day 2, Rogue versus Vitality. And then week 2, day 3, Carmine Corp versus SK. The worst one was the Carmine Corp SK game. That was one of the worst games of League of Legends I've ever seen. That was insane. You could look at anyone on Twitter and everyone is just like, wow, that was a game that was played. Like it was terrible. It was not a good game. But the same thing happened with Rogue versus Vitality. Like both of these games, I'm like, these teams both deserve to lose. It's wild. The games that are being played in the LEC right now, man. Oh,
Ay,
it
ay,
gives
ay.
me hope for the LCS.
I mean,
Oh.
LCS is already above LEC based
Yeah,
on previous results. So
yeah.
do
Actually,
Rogue and
no, you
go
go. You
ahead.
go.
Do Rogue and Giant X have wins?
They do. They're both 1-5.
5. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
not
then
that's not too bad.
KC and Mad Lions are 2-4.
Okay, okay.
I have this weird like delusional optimism for Mad Lions. Like they're 2-4 and they've had some like really bad games where it's like, oh, you have no business losing this game and you're still losing it. But I have like this delusional optimism where I think Mad Lions are still going to end up like high in playoffs. I don't know why. I just like this team a lot. It's delusional for a reason, but I don't know. I think Mad Lions is going to pull it together.
I mean, last split they were 0-3 to start week 1, right? And SK was 3-0.
I don't think so.
Oh,
No, Mad Lions took their first game, I think.
really?
They beat Carmine Corp in the opener, I want to say.
Oh shit. Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think
I know
like
like
2-1.
Mad Lions to start the winter split. We like obviously slept on them pretty hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that. Like I love I want to see Mad Lions do well. I had Alvaro and El Yoya in my super team, bro.
Yeah.
So that's not a good look.
Every time we do one of these things, my stocks are rising and Grayson's stocks are going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about that.
It's okay.
I'm just going to keep on viewing.
Just keep viewing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I guess we'll see after next weekend how the playoff seedings are going to turn out, but yeah, definitely going to tap into LEC this next weekend and see what's up because I got to see if you're being truthful about all this. But I do want to see Team Heretics play as well because I'm excited for that team.
Maybe I'm the fraud. Maybe the fraud was the friends we made along the way. You know,
maybe
I have no goddamn idea what I'm talking about. That's pretty likely.
I think you're pretty spot on here. There's definitely a clear top 3 and a clear bottom 3, and there's the middle of the pack for sure,
which you do not touch.
Yeah, you just ignore those guys and see where they finish off after week 3.
Yeah. Okay, so here's actually an interesting question if we have time for it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this floating around a little bit. The question of is NA or EU better this year based on what we've seen in like just, you know, neither of them have gone to international tournaments, so we have nothing to base that off of, but just like based on what we've seen domestically, I'm going to pose it to you. I know that I'm like the NA EU guy and you're doing like the LPL and the LCK, but I'm going to pose it to you anyways. What do you think of the question? What do you think of is LCS or LEC better?
Dude, that's a really good question. I
Isn't
think
it?
Yeah. So whenever I watch LEC, I'm like, oh my gosh, these games are absolute bloodbaths. Like 40 minutes, over 40 kills in some of these games, like consistently. And it feels like they're way more scrappy than LCS. Like the closest thing that we had in LCS was that like 100 Thieves C9 game, you know? I feel like LCS teams, honestly, if you keep on sleeping on them, they're just going to end up being better than EU. I feel like the player pool that we have in the LCS, surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Like sneaky good. I think there's a lot of really young players. Like I think Umpty probably just as an import from LCK, like you think of some of the best junglers in LCS, I think they're up there for sure with the top junglers in
I think
LEC.
Yeah, I think Umpty's a bit slept on.
Yeah, for sure. Like he's just a solid player. Like you're not just in LCK for no reason.
Yeah.
Right. Like Inspired, River, Jojo. I think Jojo you can also have up there in a similar tiers. I think Caps is probably in his own tier out of, you know, Western mid laners.
He has
but I think it's
bit insane. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's not too crazy to have Jojo in that same tier. I think, you know, I'm just going to go out on a whim and say LCS is better than LEC.
And that's a Grayson take.
That is a Grayson take.
Well, check in.
Because I mean, okay, even like see, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard because I'm comparing them within the context of their own regions. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, what if we had, instead of Worlds, we had like a bottom 2 team tournament where it was just Bro Nongshin, Rogue Ginex, Shopify Immortals, you know, and fucking, you know, Up and
EDG.
yeah, I guess EDG this year, which is crazy. But like, what if we had a tournament like that so we could really see where like the floor is for
Where's the floor?
Yeah. You know, because obviously we know the ceilings.
Maybe we're asking the wrong question.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not how good can we get at League of Legends, but how can we race to the bottom?
Yeah, who's actually the worst? I think that's
the worst team in competitive league.
Yeah, because I'm like, in my mind, when I'm thinking about it, it's like, if Weibo doesn't make playoffs, right, in the LPL, are they really like? Can you really put them in the same tier as like Shopify or like, you know, KC or Rogue as like a non-playoff team? I just don't know.
I don't know. That would be an interesting. I would watch that. I would.
Oh,
I would
sure
watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I want to see. Here's what I think. I think the LEC bottom teams are the worst teams. To be fair, LCS only has 8 teams right now,
and only 2 don't make it, right? So
yeah, so it's not totally fair. Maybe it's more fair if you put like, you know, the 7th and 8th place teams in LEC. But my take on the whole like LEC versus LCS thing is that the only thing that makes it hard is G2 and Fnatic.
Yeah.
Because G2 and Fnatic might be better than our top teams in the LCS. It's really hard to tell. I think based on what we see out of Cloud9 and the rest of playoffs, that will be able to tell us a little bit more about how good they actually are. But I think G2 and Fnatic are definitely better than definitely better than FlyQuest, TL, and 100 Thieves. I think I would favor both G2 and Fnatic in series against all of them, just because, I don't know, they both look really strong, and I feel like whenever we play European teams at international events, we end up losing. And Fnatic is like a 4th seed sometimes, or like a 3rd seed from Europe sometimes, and they come in and they just beat Cloud9, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world. But I gotta give credit to G2 and Fnatic because they always do it. So I think they make it hard. But the other half of that statement is that I think if you compare the rest of the LCS to the rest of the LEC, the LCS clears like hard. I think the LEC is a mess right now. Maybe I'm being too hard on it, and maybe it's not actually that bad. But man, these games, they're not giving me confidence. There's a reason this tier list looks the way that it does. I do not have a lot of confidence in, like, you know, I guess what, 70% of the LEC. I just think this year the LCS has been scrappy, and it has been not scrappy in the way that we were talking about it before, but just like it's been close because bottom teams are playing up higher, closer to the level of top teams. And I think for the LEC, it's been close games and scrappy because all the middle of the pack are barely scraping by over the bottom of the pack. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm delusional. I don't know. But I just think like most of the LCS clears most of the LEC, and then it's G2 and Fnatic that are running with the top NA teams and maybe better.
Yeah, I just think back to Worlds last year when Golden Guardians played BDS and got smoked. But it's like, if that happened this year, I think any of the top 4 teams that we have right now in the LCS probably clear whoever's 4th in the LEC.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. So it's such a hard question to ask, and I guess we won't get to truly see it until MSI.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, we only get 2 teams at MSI, and they're not doing the 4th seed anymore for LCS and LEC, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's a kind of a bummer. I mean, I guess we get to see 3 seeds, which is still pretty good. But
But I mean, at least from an MSI angle, I'm curious to see how, you know, any of the top 4 teams from LCS compete with, I guess, G Tier and Fnatic.
Yeah.
If that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about your silly little LPL.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter for LCS and LEC because all of those teams are losing to BLG or Top Esports or JDG.
Clapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I said, I was in Cabo, so you know that's a lot of matches that I've missed.
Sure.
But the biggest thing that we have to talk about is the playoff race. It looks like the magic number is 7. 7 wins. So you can see 5 teams are qualified from Billy Billy to Ninjas and Pijamas. IG is sitting at 8 and 6 right now. They should be fine. Like I said, I think the number is gonna be 7. Where if you have 7 wins, you're in playoffs. It's gonna be close though. So IG plays Weibo and OMG, 2 other teams that are in the playoff race. The worst that IG can finish is 8 and 8. So they should be a lock. I think that they should finish 10 and 6 though. If we're being honest,
they're going to beat both?
I think so. I think the only thing going for Weibo and OMG is that they do need to win games to get into playoffs. So there's a little more pressure on them to perform. Whereas IG, they realistically can lose both and make playoffs still.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want to do that. They would love to finish 10 and 6, right? So I think IG, you know, finishes either 10 and 6 or 9 and 7. And then you got WE next. They took a really bad loss to TT yesterday. It makes their push a lot harder.
Yeah.
They play LNG and Up, but they should finish 8 and 8. I think Up is really uninspiring. But LNG, they're slowly starting to ride their momentum.
Talk to me about LNG, Grayson.
Yeah, so LNG.
Tell me your opinions on LNG.
they're you know 6 and 7 right now. They've been below 500 the entire season. But you know it's the Scout and Weiwei jungle synergy, jungle mid synergy just hasn't really been there. I expect them to finish 9 and 7 though. I think they don't lose a game for the rest of the split.
Who do they play?
They play Anyone's Legend, they play Team WE, and they play RA. So those honestly should all be wins because WE looked pretty bad against TT.
That's not the hardest schedule, but it's not the easiest schedule either.
Yeah, I mean, so AL, they like, I don't know, that's like the most inconsistent team. They're also in the playoff race. There's so many teams in the playoff race, but they're sitting at 7 and 7 right now. They probably finish 7 and 9 because they play Top Esports and LNG. But they were the first team to lose to EDG, but they were also the first team to beat FPX in the first series of the year. They beat NIP. It's just one of the most inconsistent teams, AL.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I expect LNG to finish these last 3 games with wins in all 3. Their new coach Dynamite, since he stepped in, they're 2-0 since he joined. So that's hopeful for LNG fans. So aka me.
AKA you. Real quick, just on this whole new coach thing, have you heard about anyone's Legend's new coach?
Oh my God, what's this?
Tabe is stepping.
Yeah.
So Tabe was it's Tabe or is it? It's not Tabe, right?
Tabe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tabe is stepping in. He was the coach of BLG when they were playing second fiddle to JGG last year. What do you think that does anything for their playoff hopes or for their game against LNG?
See, the thing is, like, even if they finish 7 and 9, I think they're okay. Obviously, a new coach could be the difference maker in keeping this team more consistent, because that's honestly been their problem. They've lost to some pretty bad teams this year. Definitely, like, in my opinion, the most inconsistent team in the LPL.
Okay.
And it's an uphill battle for sure with Top Esports and LNG. but who knows? Maybe against LNG they can pull some stuff out.
Yeah.
But I think LNG is really fighting right now. They've looked really convincing in their last two series, and I don't know. I I'm just a big LNG fan, so I'm always back the boys. But they lost to LGD like 2 weeks ago, like right before Dynamite came in, and LGD is, booty cheeks as well. So
Bottom feeder.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be really interesting. The cutoff, like I said, I think it's 7. So you got Weibo and TT. They're really the only ones that can make this playoff push or race interesting.
Yeah.
Weibo plays JDG and IG.
That's not great.
So, they'd have to really pull something out of their ass if they want to hit 7 wins. Kind of same with TT. They have top esports and FPX.
Oh, man.
So, like with both of those teams, there needs to be a pretty big upset for either one of those teams to make things a little more interesting for the playoff push.
Yeah.
But it's very possible that we see 4 teams kind of sitting at 7 and 9 to finish the season, which will really make it crazy. Because I do expect OMG and AL to lose their next 2 games.
Okay.
And if Weibo and TT can pull out 1, all they need is 1 out of those 2. Then we have 4 teams sitting at 7 and 9. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. But Weibo and TT really have to, pull some stuff out of their ass.
Yeah. So it's looking like it's probably WE, OMG, LNG, and anyone's legend.
Yeah, and IG. They're pretty much a lock.
Legend. IG. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would have anyone's legend in there too. I think.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's literally, we got to see if Weibo and TT can get a win, but if they don't, then it's really just up to seeding for the rest of these games.
Okay.
Because all those bottom 5 that are qualified technically right now, or like in a playoff spot, they can all lose all their games except for LNG, but they can pretty much lose all their games and be okay as long as Weibo and TT don't win any as well. So
interesting.
A lot of teams have their fate up to their fate in their own hands. So it's gonna be really, really fun to watch. There's gonna be a lot of spicy matches in the next week.
So next week, come back and check in, and we're going to talk about LCK and LPL playoffs because we'll have all the seeds locked.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's gonna go to plan for the most part.
Okay.
But yeah, there's still a few seeds left that need to be determined in both leagues, so it's gonna be really interesting to see how everything plays out.
Yeah. So would you say then that LNG's season has gone to plan?
Excuse me? Does it look like it's gone to play?
Just to stoke the fire a little bit.
Yeah. It's gonna be in plan when they finish as the 6th seed in the LPL after, being outside of a playoff spot for the whole season. But
yeah, that's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. I honestly do expect them to go 3-0 this next week. So
no, I'd be hyped to see that.
Yeah,
that'd be sick.
And that would push them to at least 6 or 7, which would be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, season has not gone to plan.
No.
It seems like they've made 3 significant changes, throughout the season, or I guess technically 2, like benching Mark, putting Hong in, and then firing their coach, hiring Dynamite. So I think slowly, it's like incremental differences that are slowly making them better, hopefully.
Yeah.
But, that's up to them to decide for me.
It's tough being in Grayson's corner right now. Being a 100T LNG KDF enjoyer is it's a rough week.
I was big on MADKOI too. Like
I was big on them too though. To be fair, I don't know what's going on. We can have that delusional optimism together. I'm okay with that. Yeah,
but yeah, the Grayson takes have not been the best as of late.
hitting as hard as we would like to.
Yeah. So just fade me for any of you bettors out there. Just fade anything that I say.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might win some money.
Man, I think I might have to like throw a party or something if we come back next week and LNG and KDF both miss playoffs, and if 100 Thieves loses too. I think something special might have to happen.
You know, if all three of those things happen, I can see 2 out of the 3 happening. If LNG lose, I will personally pay you, $1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, it's esports winner. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We take those.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I don't have too much else to say here, but I think we have a lot of pretty interesting League of Legends coming up here just in the next week. With playoffs going on in the LCS, with playoff seeds being determined in both Eastern regions, with the last week of regular season.
I know.
For LEC, like
already.
This is a good Equinox. This isn't like boring games. Like we're actually getting some banger stuff coming out. So really,
check back in. Episode 11 is going to be a banger. Yeah.
I can't believe we hit episode 10.
I know. Yeah, we didn't do anything for the Big 10.
I know.
Maybe we'll have to do it at like 50 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for sticking around for 10 episodes. Thank you for letting us make it happen. We really enjoyed and have been enjoying this whole journey so far. We're going to keep doing it. We're still working on making the content better. We're working on upping the production, trying some new things. To everyone who came out from our Reddit post last week, that was awesome. We got a ton of support on the video from that. Thank you guys for coming out and watching it. We hope we're doing you all justice. Just leave any feedback you have. We love hearing from you. As always, like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're on pretty much any platform you can think of for podcasts. All of those links are at allchatlol, except for Twitter, which is allchat_LOL, because someone is holding it hostage from us. But that's it. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, yeah. As always, all chats by the fans for the fans.
Peace.
See y'all later.
Bro, 2 quadras?
I don't deserve it. I don't.
I can't believe this guy's typing so much. Like, it's actually like, I've never seen like a bad player type so much. Nice, Jarvis.
That's a good master. I like that from you.